Gupta. I'm with Violin Memory. I'm responsible for our marketing efforts from products and solutions. Today we're going to talk about what it means to build an all Flash-based cloud infrastructure. Really why you need to go down this path and why it makes sense to evaluate Flash as your basic foundation for building your infrastructure clouds. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the market space. What you see is essentially a situation which is very typical with most enterprises that are out there. They're struggling to maintain a situation in terms of an IT infrastructure that's maximized to essentially support multiple different environments, whether it's projects, whether it's virtualization or cloud infrastructure, or building a software-defined infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. The challenge is that they have essentially a limited budget. In most cases, the budget's fixed, where you've got a situation that's about anywhere from 2 to 5% of a business revenue. You take that, you can further carve that out. About 70% of that is utilizing just to keep the lights on. Essentially making sure that all the infrastructure is running, everything's spinning properly, all the equipment switching, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when you look at all the various innovative efforts that are out there, looking at cloud, whether it's virtualization, software-defined environments, et cetera, the environment's really supported by about 30% of the overall budget. What that means is there's not a lot of room left to really go out and innovate. That's the key challenge that most IT departments are faced with, is that they're tasked to go out and do a lot of innovation, yet they don't have the budget to go out and succeed completely. So how do you change this equation? How do you change this entire environment to ensure that clouds can be really built and be very effective overall? The way we look at it is that you have to change the environment. You have to change how that budget equation is. You cannot have it 70-30. You have to have most of your budget in an innovation environment. And so how do you get to that? Well, you can get to that by reducing cost structures that you have, reducing the amount of storage you need to have to really keep your business running, reduce the amount of cooling you need to have to manage your infrastructure, making sure your data center runs efficiently, yet it's not overheating, obviously. Reduce the amount of compute infrastructure you need to have to meet your business SLAs, your application SLAs, and then reduce the amount of application licenses to ensure that you're able to get to your business needs without having to pay too much. If you start saving money on those environments, on those various layers of the IT data center, you have an opportunity to really change the budget equation. The equation which is today faced with 30% left for innovation and 70% for just keeping the lights on. When you look at that and say, okay, I've got a situation where I can reduce all of this stuff, I have an opportunity to really reduce the cost down and really change the innovation equation. Now you match that with an ability to run everything fast. You've pretty much achieved the Holy Grail. And our belief is that with Flash infrastructure at the back end, the backbone of your basic storage environment that is powering the clouds, you can achieve this massive kind of investment. This investment profile changes and this shift can be a reality. And this is where Violin comes in. Our belief is that if you build a Flash ecosystem from the ground up, a system that's really taking Flash at the core, systems that are designed to have chips at the basic building block, and putting all the software innovation at the hardware layer, making sure you can do sustained latencies in a 250 microsecond range, sustained performance in the millions of IOPS, again in a mixed workload environment, a cloud environment that's very random, that's very predictable at the same time, and you're able to deliver this kind of reduction, you've essentially changed the game. You've allowed IT departments to go out and have a shift where they're able to essentially achieve an innovation profile that's 70% of an IT budget as opposed to the other way around. The scenario is Flash can make this happen. And Flash specific from Violin was designed to give you sustained performance, sustained low latencies, and full scale. So if you look at this and say, what does this mean, and translate into the value that can be delivered, take a single rack unit profile. We'll try to normalize the situation and say, okay, well, you take one rack unit of a spinning disk, one rack unit of an SSD environment, and one rack unit of Violin infrastructure. What you end up getting is some of the highest virtual machine density. And this is proven out by various testing scenarios and benchmarks out there, and most recently with VMware publishing a blog that essentially showcases that as you add more and more applications into your virtual infrastructure, you're able to seamlessly and linearly scale with your environment. Violin delivers the massive amounts of linear scale needed to run a cloud infrastructure completely virtualized. You need to be able to have multiple virtual machines consolidated down to the smallest footprint, yet they're all achieving that same level of business SLAs as if they were running entirely on a dedicated hardware infrastructure. That's the power of building an all-flash infrastructure. Now, if you think about it and say, what does that mean? And if you can achieve this massive consolidation, the benefits are amazing. You look at lower power consumption, that's one entity. You can essentially look at consolidating your infrastructure down and running a cloud infrastructure that is the most efficient infrastructure in the industry. Look at that and say, okay, well, that's one great thing, but you can also consolidate the floor space. The reason why a lot of people go down a virtualization environment is for rack space, floor space consolidation. When you have the most dense virtual machine environment supported by Flash, you can achieve levels of consolidation unseen before. And that's the value of running entire cloud infrastructures in Flash. And now the cool thing about all of this is that you're doing all of this with predictable, determined SLAs. Low latencies that are jitter-free and millions of IOPS, all in a custom-built Flash infrastructure. With that, I will end this talk. If you have any more questions, please come by our booth if you're watching this live. We're booth 605 here on the show floor. We'll be demonstrating a lot of the core values that we have today. Massive workloads consolidated, Oracle, SQL, virtual machines, all running on a single 3U platform. So come by the booth. If not, please visit the website, www.vmem.com. Thank you.